Have you ever just stopped and, really thought about language? I don't just mean the words you're saying, but the incredible, unbelievably complex system that lets you say anything at all. It's so much a part of being human, we just take it for granted. Well, today we're going to dive into one of the biggest debates out there. Is language a tool we invented, or is it a biological instinct, something hardwired right into our DNA? The answer, I promise, might just change how you think about yourself.
Way back, over 150 years ago, Charles Darwin dropped this bombshell of an idea. He basically said that speaking is as natural for us as a spider spinning a web. It's not something we have to be painstakingly taught, like, say, baking a cake or even writing. No, it's an instinct. Now, that was a pretty radical idea, and it perfectly sets up the mystery we're going to unravel today.
So this is the big question, right? Is language something our parents and teachers carefully build inside our heads, brick by brick? Or is it more like an arm or a leg, a kind of biological program that just grows as long as it gets the right kind of nourishment from the world around it? To figure that out, we got to look at the evidence.
Okay, so first up, let's just lay out the two big competing ideas. On one side, you've got language as a straight-up biological instinct, and on the other, you have language as this brilliant cultural invention.
Now, at first glance, you might think, well, this seems pretty simple, but here's the tricky part. Both theories can explain why every single human society, everywhere, has language. Sure, it could be an instinct, something universal to our species, or it could just be a super useful invention, kind of like using a fork, that every culture eventually figures out on its own. The fact that it's everywhere, well, that's not quite enough proof. To really prove it's an instinct, we'd need to find a situation where language couldn't possibly be taught. We need, like, a smoking gun. And you know what? It turns out history has given us exactly that. The evidence is pretty extraordinary.
And that smoking gun, it's found in these incredible moments where language is literally born from scratch, sometimes in a single generation. This is, hands down, one of the most powerful pieces of evidence for the language instinct.
So this has actually happened multiple times throughout history. Picture this. Groups of people who don't share a language are suddenly forced to live and work together. So what do? They invent a kind of makeshift communication system called a pidgin. It's really just strings of words, no real grammar to speak of. But here's the mind-blowing part. When their children grow up hearing only this broken pidgin, they don't just learn it, they transform it. Their brains spontaneously create a brand new, fully complex language called a creole, complete with its own rich grammar and rules that never existed before. And this just perfectly illustrates the whole point. Think about it. The children were not taught this new, complex grammar. They couldn't have been. Nobody knew it. Their brains took the broken, messy input, and almost like they were following an internal blueprint, just built a complete language. It tells us that language isn't just something we learn, it's something our brains are literally wired to create.
Okay, so if our brains have this built-in blueprint for language, what does it actually look like? How does this incredible system actually work? Let's break down the core components.
It all has to start with sound, right? That's phonology. It's the set of distinct sounds, or phonemes, that a language uses to build words. For most English speakers, the difference between lip and rip is totally obvious, but for a native Japanese speaker, hearing that difference can be incredibly hard, because L and R just aren't separate, meaningful sounds in their language.
Next up, you've got morphology. These are the building blocks of meaning. They're called morphemes, the smallest little bits that have meaning. So dog is one morpheme, and that S we stick on the end to make it plural, that's another one. You don't learn the word dogs from scratch. Your brain just knows the rule. Combine the dog morpheme with the plural S morpheme to make a new meaning.
And finally, we get to the real powerhouse, syntax. This is what most of us just call grammar. This is the set of rules that lets us take all those words and combine them into a practically infinite number of meaningful sentences. It really is the engine of language.
And the sheer scale of this is it's staggering. A conservative estimate says the average adult knows over 60,000 words or morphemes. Now, to get to that number, a kid has to learn, on average, about 9 new words a day, every single day from their first birthday. It's an absolutely astonishing feat of memory.
But here's where the real magic happens, and this quote just nails it. We have a finite number of words in our heads, right? And yet, we can create and understand an infinite number of sentences. How is that even possible? I mean, I could say a sentence right now that has almost certainly never been said before in human history, like,
My dog is annoyed that the Wi-Fi is too slow for him to watch cat videos. And you get it, instantly.
Well, the secret lies in this really powerful computational trick our brains use called recursion. This is the secret sauce. This is what gives human language its limitless creative power.
Let me show you how it works. We can start with a really simple, basic sentence, a complete thought. For example, John hates cheese.
Okay, now watch this. We can take that complete sentence and we can embed it, we can nest it inside another one like this. My roommate heard a rumor that John hates cheese. See, the original idea is still right there, just tucked inside a bigger thought.
And we can just do it again, and again, and again. There is no such thing as the longest sentence in English. You can just keep embedding phrases like this until you run out of breath. That is the infinite power of recursion.
But, this system of rules isn't always so straightforward. Our brains are working overtime, totally unconsciously, to figure out what sentences actually mean. And that's why these headlines are so funny. They're ambiguous. Are the referees getting ugly, or are they complaints? And of course, you've got the classic Groucho Marx joke that plays on this perfectly. I once shot an elephant in my pajamas. How he got in my pajamas, I'll never know.
So we have this incredible system for making language. But the final piece of evidence, the thing that really ties it to our biology, comes from our own internal clock.
If you look at kids, language development follows this remarkably predictable timetable. It doesn't matter what culture they're in. And just like other biological processes, like learning to walk, there is a critical period. If a child isn't exposed to language during this window, it becomes incredibly difficult, sometimes even impossible, to ever learn one fluently later in life. That biological window for language, it seems to close right around puberty. This is a huge clue that language acquisition is a maturational process, not just ordinary learning.
The famous linguist Noam Chomsky, he put it perfectly. He argued that we shouldn't even think of it as learning a language. I mean, you don't learn to grow your arms, right? Your body just does it. And Chomsky's big claim is that, in a very real sense, language is an organ that grows inside the mind.
So when you speak, when you form a sentence, you're not just using a tool that you learned. You are using a complex biological organ, a system of infinite creativity that grew inside your own mind. So if that's true, what does that say about the incredible, intricate complexity you carry around inside you every single day?